So we're back with Bellular for what I assume is a spicy topic. You guys voted it up heavily. Some of you spending internet points, Chili, to drive it high. Thank you, McSalty, for resubbing. Glop for subscribing to the channel for 4 months. And I do want to say that when we get into these conversations and we're comparing 15 years of WoW or 10 years of WoW to 5 or 7 or whatever years of Final Fantasy, there are things worth defending. There are things worth saying, WoW has been good in the past, it can be good again. But when you talk about the current state, this moment, this slice, I'm filming it on the launch of 9.1. And so this last week when people were saying, hey, if you reforge a legendary that has a socket, it won't, that you have a socket on, it's not going to inherit that socket. Like when you see this like regrind of a grind, when you see the frustration that we've had after months of not having content, and then the size of 9.1 and the breadth of 9.1 and what they want you to do in 9.1 doesn't feel right. That's not the part of WoW I'm defending. I believe WoW is capable of better, and so I'm willing to defend them to have that chance. I believe they are capable of better because they have been capable of better. And people leaving happens in companies. That is what it is. But new people coming in, you have to think they're going to this company, they know the reputation, they know that the pay structure isn't double what every other dev is getting, they know that the hours suck and that crunch is a real thing. You're going to work on WoW today if you are a new hire because you want to work on WoW. At this point, the game's been out long enough, it is more than possible that many of these new devs grew up on WoW. And so you have people that are passionate about WoW and are excited to work on a game that shaped a huge portion of what they view as the best memories in gaming. And so there is a path forward where that passion and that drive to make the game better, when paired with good management and resource allocation, when paired with good strategy and listening to what fans are saying and gathering what they mean by that and how to move forward based on that, in a long-term sustainable way, not knee-jerk reactions, it can get there. But when I see why in the world is WoW getting dislike bombed right now, I mean, I think that's just honest feedback.
If we know what the team intends, then we can judge them. You know, we can agree or disagree with their intent, but we can at least judge the content on has it successfully, or design on, you know, if it's successfully achieved their intent. And right now we're just all flying blind. Get control of your own narrative, because once you do that, you have control of the narrative, and then you control the narrative, and that's really useful for public relations. I'm fairly sure that's like some of the most basic stuff for public relations. So
yeah, but at the minute, the narrative's running circles around them, which you can tell, like, no matter what part of community discussion you go to. Like, I mean, even the prime example, and we'll kind of, it's a little bit further down in the dock here, but the narrative is running circles around them with the survival guide. More dislikes than likes.
Yes, we...
how did you get to that?
Let's actually just do that. Let's do the survival guide. So, look, the survival guide, right? It basically just acts as a general content overview for this patch.
Yep.
Where? Is it there? Is it linked to our document?
Yeah,
there it is, yes.
So
I mean, yeah, it's the survival guide. It's what we usually get. We get, you know, lore doing a big speak over what's going on, and uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, uh-oh, it's got dislikes.
Bad times.
Now, that said, not that YouTube dislikes are the most important thing in the universe, right? Because, you know, if people want to do a that is going to take place, and wherever you can publicly and one of your greatest public emporiums is the dislike bar, because you just click it and then you're done, you know? You can do a little sort of a drive-by poop on them.
Yeah, like it's not an incredible metric, but it is, like, you know, it does show if you look at that as a cross-section of people who care enough to click the survival guide, then, you know, that's some of the more engaged players not happy. Be it for genuine purposes or being haha meme, meme upset. It's still the narratives there, because, like, I mean, any of the MMO coverage sites could post an article.
It takes some context, right? So you also want to look at view counts. Ideally, you would know view counts over similar time spans. What did a previous patch get in its first 24, 48, 72, 1 week, right? Ideally, you would watch view totals, because total interest is important as well. If people are mad at the content inside the video, but they're there to see the video, they're excited about the game, there's a path forward. But if you're starting to see dropped engagement across the board, that can be something more systematically wrong. Likes on its own, dislikes on its own, that can mean any number of things. And you only get to press thumbs up, thumbs down for the entire video. And so that's not wildly helpful either, right? That could be that you didn't do something that I wanted, but I like everything that's here. That could be I hate everything here, and I hate everything about what you guys are doing. And those are the same thumbs down. A thumbs up could be this is a well-produced video, and I appreciate it being in my feed, even though I'm not happy about the content. It could be, oh my gosh, I just found WoW for the first time, and this is the greatest experience of my entire life, and I'm so excited about this. And those are the same thumbs up. So on its own, thumbs up, thumbs down doesn't mean that much, but it is a single point of data.
Highlighting this?
Well, PC Gamer actually published
Yep.
an article today,
So it did.
an article by a Sarah James called entitled "World of Warcraft's Upcoming Power System Risks Trivializing the Work Put into Legendary Gear."
Yeah, let's see if I
It
Risks?
seems like a bad fit, but I hope I'm proved wrong. Is the byline?
Nope.
I think is what they call
That
that.
is not it.
Ah,
There it
you
is.
just got GDPR'd.
I
Don't
always
believe
get
it's a
GDPR,
risk.
Don't you
despite
love it?
having extensions that disable that.
A catch-up mechanic on its own is a risk. I think it's a promise. When I look at the players who invested in 9.0 more than me, and I look at 9.1, I feel awful for them. They put time into a patch well beyond the life cycle that patch could have possibly been expected to do. And as a reward, anything they have is tossed in the bin. And not in a, oh, we're going to improve it to be so much better. Like, they have to redo. This isn't you're going to use this and it's going to be this process. For 14 fans, this is literally for the last step after Dalreda. You throw that relic in the trash. You start the entire relic grind over to get to the final 535 relic. The need to recraft from the... it's hard to draw a parallel that handles this in such a disrespectful way for people who probably spent a fair bit of time of the last 9 million months grinding a lot of legendaries across a lot of classes. One of the things they may have been excited about is, wow, going into my raid group this time, I'm geared on so many characters because we've had so long. Well, congratulations. You now threw more stuff in the trash than I did.
Yeah.
Love
Totally.
computers.
Oh, GDPR totally made internet browsing better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it's just the sort of thing where it's like, when you lose control of your narrative, dumb shit like that happens.
Yeah.
That's what.
Just the idea of people who don't really understand but are keeping roughly abreast of the news. They'll just see that and go, oh, I guess World of Warcraft's not doing so well. And then you've got the narrative stretching outside of your player base through sources obviously it's a little bit with YouTube as well. But even for someone who's browsing PC Gamer for general PC gaming news, they're not going to be trapped in the Warcraft content creator or Twitter people or high-end player minds. They're just going to see, oh, I guess World of Warcraft's having some problems. And then, you get an investor saying that and scrolling down going, what the fuck's happening to my investment?
Yeah, I
Stuff
guess
like that can happen.
there's that thing where I think a decent example of this. I remember it was Ian in Preach's interview where Ian mentioned, there's loads of players who apparently roll a new character to do world quests and stuff. Whatever. But that's, I think, speaking to there being this hyper casual, not engaged in the content space or anything like that.
Yes, there was a point in the Ian interview with Mike that talked about the player that Mike doesn't represent. I think Mike has empathy for that player. I think Mike tries to reach out to that player, but ultimately, like Mike himself has admitted, he falls more on the elite end. He, is experiencing open world content in many ways for the first time and doesn't like what he's finding, but ultimately, it's not been the content that's designed for players like him. his guild fell apart at the end of Nathria, but normally it would be, no, guys, we need to get this back together. The next raid's right around the corner. And instead, who knows if all those people are even still playing right now. It's been a while. So to say there are players playing this game differently is very fair. When you look at like Des Mephisto, however you say his name, the speed leveler. When you look at somebody like Want to Buy Gold or Persephone or Samadan. When you look at Sloot, or you go look at somebody who like Max organizing Limit, those are all very different ways to play the game. There are very, very different ways to play the game. So to point out that we can't make the decision that satisfies you because it's going to hurt another way to play the game is very logical. But to take top-end loot and say you need to remake it to get into content that really isn't centered on the way you make it, right? You need to go make loot to make yourself relevant in raiding. Don't worry, you're going to spend a lot of time not raiding to do it. I do see how that hurts a group of people. I don't see how it protects some other magical group. Somebody who was leveling alts to try all the different covenants and unlock all the 9 million mounts available through casual play this time around and doing transmog and doing gold doesn't care if your legendaries were upgradable or were deleted. So what I don't understand is why hurting one group of players that does not help another was the logical move forward. For 14 players watching this is most similar to the Relic grind group of players versus the Savage Raiders, because the Relic is not really a best-in-slot weapon until at any time that's really relevant in the expansion. It gets a minor push in the 0.55 patch after everything else is gone. It doesn't matter. This is a lot like saying, hey, we need to change the way Savage Loot works to help Relic players. That doesn't impact it. Well, we need to change the way Relic works to impact Savage players. But it doesn't impact them. And so you hurt one group of players, but you're not helping another one. As a matter of fact, carrying legendaries forward would be a reason for a casual player to say, I've never really engaged in kind of chasing optimal, but if my optimal thing is going to be easy to maintain throughout the expansion, and they have unique appearances, maybe I want to go chase 2 or 3 of them. Maybe I'll go get one that's not even that good because it looks cool. There's a way to make that system where it satisfies both. There's a way to make it to where maybe upgrading is a reskin of it. Maybe recrafting as an option is a reskin. If you upgrade it, you keep a skin, and we have a new skin for people that want to recraft. And so you create this secondary market of recrafted Legos. But that's not what they did. They said, hey, we found a way to make everybody universally dissatisfied, and we're going to move forward with it. That's really frustrating when a patch has this much pressure on it. Had 9.1 come out on time, it's like, well, 9.0 came out, it had problems. 9.1 attempted to fix some, it caused some new ones. What are you going to do? Here comes 9.2. It's been long enough that we could have been in 9.2 by now. I mean, 9.1 had to be perfect. It had to be. Like, it not only couldn't be an unmitigated disaster, it had to be perfect. Because you have players that are quitting, are on the verge of quitting. You have built up 8 months of distrust and frustration. And so for 14 players trying to empathize with this as they welcome people in from WoW and want to understand where they're coming from, you have to imagine that right now we're in 5.3 and we're not going to get 5.4 and 5.5. But with 5.1, they said, hey, unfortunately, we're just not going to have a relic, right? Or unfortunately, everything that you did through the initial expansion doesn't really mean anything because there's a lot of people ahead on gear score and we want to kind of set them back. It's hard to draw an exact parallel for 14 because 14 has been so freakishly consistent on the number of patches and how often they are. that this kind of quality over quantity mentality doesn't exist in 14. You get your patches. Even if they have to trim content, you get your patches. Period. You paid to be entered into the theme park for another month, and after a certain number of months, there will be a new ride. We don't know if it'll be a good ride. We're listening to your feedback. We have some long-term plans we're really excited about, but there will be a ride. The park will open. And picking the quality over quantity, this cyberpunk mindset where we can kick the date out an unlimited number of times because at the end is this holy grail, puts a ton of pressure on that content. Pressure that does not exist for any one patch in 14. There are 14 players that get to a patch and say, they added 5 features, I don't like any of them, and then they just keep playing because another one is right around the corner. Delaying this long is problematic. And so when you see a system that players say feels like a punishment, you have used up so much slack, you have given up your ability to say, well, let's talk about that. You just need to listen now. If they say it feels like it sucks, then it sucks. I don't care if you have a good reason. Good reasons would have been acceptable 5 months ago. Good reasons would have been acceptable 3 months ago, maybe. You gave that up. You said, if you'll be patient with me, I'll be perfect. That's the promise you made. Not in those words. But when you ask people to pay you monthly for nearly a year for a live service game that does not have service, you just paid them for the fact your game is live. Diablo 2's been live. They don't pay anything. StarCraft 2's been live. They don't pay anything. Live is not special anymore. There was a time 10 or 20 years ago when live was special. That's not. You've been doing that. We trust you to do that. You keep your servers up. You have pretty good launches. We pay you for service. And so if you're going to delay this long, it's incredibly frustrating that 9.1 is not better. That it's not something that says, oh my gosh, guys, I'm not even going to be able to play 14 on stream this week. Because as of the 29th, which is today when I'm filming, I got to play WoW. I'm not going to be able to put it down. We're not going to play WoW, or we're not going to play 14 on Tuesday like I normally do. We're not going to play 14 on Wednesday like I normally do. We're not going to play PSO2 New Genesis on Thursday like I was planning on doing. We're not going to play Guild Wars on Friday like I normally do. There isn't time. There's too much goodness in 9.1. But I don't actually feel that 5.55 has less content multiple weeks in than 9.1 does on day one when you list out the things that the patch notes make me want to do.
Sort of player. And that's the sort of player that is going to be doing things like only really looking at the official survival guide, the official Warcraft blog, the World of Warcraft Twitter account. And when they see Chains of Domination survival guide, dislike bombed, that's really quite a bad look for,
of course it is,
for them. And what's important there is, ad spend, right? Because this is going to reduce the conversion rate and increase the user acquisition cost for any of Warcraft's ad spending, which is obviously pretty bad for them as a business. And that really just, I think, underlines the business case for getting control of your narrative. I don't know why they are seemingly one of the worst in the industry for player communications, even though they should be some of the most experienced on Earth at running a live service game.
Yeah.
Like, how many live service games have existed for that long? I mean, not many, right? So, yeah, it's a bit odd that they would let it sort of get that way.
Yeah,
but that's just how it went down.
I guess it's not an investment they think is worth it.
Yeah, something like that.
Versus whatever else they're doing with all their money. I mean, they
probably just feel entitled to their success. Their World of Warcraft, they've always been at the top. People always have returned after big dramas. They probably assume they always will.
Of course.
As for the survival guide itself, I mean, it's a WoW survival guide. Yeah. It's well put together. It's got some nice shots. It covers the content.
Yeah.
Survival guide. I don't think those dislikes have anything to do with it.
I think Lore certainly probably had to rest his throat after giving it the absolute stacks, which
I know that feeling.
whether you like it or you didn't, but still like it's fun to listen to. Although I will say the one thing is there's like one shot like a minute and something in where the frame rate dips significantly. I'm just like, come on,
Oh, nice.
never do that. Like that is really. I mean, it's not like it's rare. You see it in almost everything, but
Especially in Nintendo trailers.
yeah. Well, I mean that's because the game will run like that.
Yeah.
But it's it was shit. What game was it? There was some game they were showing off that ran like absolute dog shit at E3, and I was like, why are you doing this? Why would you put that out there? But it's that idea where, I mean, it's a minor point, but just
I think too. There's probably just some. There were some lines in the Chains of Domination survival guide that had us laughing. There was like
Yeah.
the jailer's mysterious plans, the jailer's design, the hidden knowledge the jailer's going to get, and we're just like, what? What does the jailer want? Who is he? What is he? I mean, we know because for some things, but it's like his motivations. The primary antagonist has not had his motivations be properly set up, and we're probably.
Yeah.
Why is there no archaeology this expansion? Why has I have said this over and over. Why has the one place that every soul of any kind passes through not have relics of that? Why are there not chunks of anima to explore this narrative? Why are there not residuals that I can pick up? This is the ultimate expansion to go back and rewrite, correct, expand on any lore you wish you'd handled differently. For any of you that have ever played Warhammer 40k, they get to rewrite their lore all the time and say, hey, actually, that was just history reported by this group of people. What we say really happened is this. And then a third group and says, no, they're both lying. This is the expansion where they could have given us a chance to go back and say, you misunderstood us when we had core lore tied to a certain expansion. Actually, here's what happened. So you had an opportunity here to go in and explore all this. Those are the kinds of systems where you can go tie, another moose mount behind it, and people, and that's it. And there's no requirement to do it. You just, if people want that goofy moose mount, they got to go do it. Legion added, I think Legion was when we added the moose mount from archaeology. Go do it. Why are there not fishing raids this expansion? Why are there not side quest stories that are meaningful? If you wanted to have a campaign quest, why not sub-campaigns that let us go explore Mankirk's wife? That let us go explore, something that fueled original Fellorcs, or something that gives us a new way of looking at the events of Sunwell or Mechagon. Why has this expansion been so focused on mainline content when they clearly can't keep up with mainline content? Why not cut bait? Like, if you're really going to just piss people off, then lean in hard. Try something new. If you're going to make people make choices with each character to be locked into one of these covenants, then why is there not a bigger gameplay mechanic around that other than just being aware of the things I can't do? Final Fantasy XIV and Shadowbringers, to the point that it frustrated me, added tank stance to tanks, neutered the leveling experience of crafters and gatherers, homogenized classes in so many ways. Made the dungeons, in my opinion, easier and flatter for many of them than they have been in the past. In many ways, Shadowbringers was a goal to make every piece of content more inclusive to anybody that chose to engage in that content. And World of Warcraft went hard the other direction. We're going to make everything locked behind this impossibly complex range of systems that are just going to take time out of your day because they can. And you're going to be forced to make choices, if for no other reason because you have limited time, but also because we just baked in choices, and then we said that we had the ability to bridge between those with an imaginary ripcord that we had to walk back because we never had a ripcord. And so what's frustrating about WoW is that they've picked this path of where there's going to be choices, compared to Final Fantasy saying, you don't have to make any choices, you can have anything you want. But there's no reward for those choices. There's nothing at the end that says, that's so cool, and if I had done everything, I wouldn't have got to experience this. Choices are not new to World of Warcraft. For anybody that thinks they're new, they didn't play during TBC when you had to choose between Scryer and Aldor. They didn't, there have been moments when you've had to choose. During Pandaria, when they lifted the daily cap and the choice became, you don't have enough time in the day to do everything you want to do. So even then it just acts as a choice for casuals, and then people who play a lot are like, what are you talking about? I did everything. Cool. Most people couldn't get to everything. So these expansions got large. Having things like Legions rotating fishing raids, where based on which days of the week you played, you only had certain content available to you. The way we interacted with Argus, there's these rotating content schedules. There have been times where the game feels like it's pushing you into one type of content, whether that's what you wanted or not. Shadowlands took that a lot further. Shadowlands took that all the way to its breaking point. And I think what's the struggle now is that 9.1 was the, hey, we know expansions aren't perfect, you have a chance to fix it. And a lot of people will tolerate the first year of an expansion, which gives you easily 9.2 if you manage your time correctly. In many ways, when I heard they were getting away from Pathfinder, I was kind of bummed because I felt like, wow, having a year in an expansion is a really neat opportunity to have patches that explore the world before we just start skipping over it and flying. And instead, they basically said, yeah, it's still going to take the same amount of time. We're just not going to do Pathfinder because there's not going to be content to do in the world anyway. Ironically, for the fact that there's been less to do, so I should be able to get to whatever I want, it's made me want to play less. And I don't understand how they move forward from here in a way that makes 9.2 reasonable and meaningful. I don't see how they have any level of crunch. There are people who are like, well, no, 9.2 is going to compete with the craziness that is going to be Endwalker. Even if they wanted it to, how could they? So, I don't know. But Pizza in the Sky, thanks for the support. And Kazari, monstrous 9 sub support. Thank you guys. Let's keep going.
Into the first of 2 major content patches, assuming this is going to be roughly a 2-year-long expansion, albeit with an extra 3 months to account for additional delays. So,
nice.
Yeah, I think there's that, and then a lot of people probably, they just see, oh, Maw, didn't like Maw, dislike. So I think that's roughly what's going on with that.
I mean, I could definitely see that from the players who are less engaged and don't really see Korth as this brand new thing. They're like, what? That's just a Maw. Why am I going back there? What?
And Korthi feels entirely different.
Yeah,
to the Maw. And actually, the Maw right now feels entirely different to the Maw.
Yeah, as far as gameplay is concerned,
both in a good way.
Yeah, massively different as far as gameplay is concerned. It's just you can't really get that in a trailer. Yeah, unless you do loads of UI shots, but then that doesn't communicate anything, and that's pretty grim. Like,
yeah, so that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gave me a chance to explore why I am frustrated with WoW. I defend WoW in a lot of these videos because, I do feel that it's worth having somebody defend them. And so if the person I'm watching doesn't, I do feel it's worth having somebody represent what they're doing well. I think in this video they noted some of the things they're doing well. It's a relatively short list right now that publicly they're doing well. I hope they're working on things in the back end that they're just not sharing with us that are going well. But I feel they represented WoW in a relatively positive light compared to a lot of the previous clips. And so it gave me a chance to feel that I could explore why I'm so frustrated. Because 14 is not winning on some groundbreaking deal with the devil innovation. 14 is winning with the fundamentals. They're winning with just basic good. Listen to your community, empathize with your community, try to implement what you can, explain why you can't do what you can't, and come out with consistent, acceptably or better content on a schedule that you said would happen and then did happen. You're a big company. I understand that in COVID, some of your devs likely got sick. Not all of them. Not at any one point. So, you know, if this was an indie studio with 5 people and it's like, well, we all got food poisoning last weekend, so that's going to delay the entire game by 2 weeks. Well, what are you going to do? You have 5 employees. These are companies that deal with revenue in billions. Numbers so large that they just don't really even seem like they're in the same currency that my bank account is. It's outrageous that anybody is surprised at this frustration. I want WoW to be better. I do. I'm really excited that 14's in a good spot this year. It doesn't mean it's perfect. WoW, they're not so far ahead you should just give up. But you gotta start getting work done, telling us what you're working on, and then delivering. I don't know what it is, but you gotta do something. You gotta do something. Because I keep subscribing, but when I look at the amount of playtime, it has slowly moved from a wonderful value at the launch of Shadowlands to a decent value to less of a value to, well, I got a lot of value earlier in the expansion, so I'll keep playing, to where I'm just starting to pay for a game that I'm really only playing, kinda.